The Raiders need to learn what the Philadelphia Eagles just did to the Kansas City Chiefs, embarrassing them in Super Bowl 59. I'm Mitchell Renz. You're watching the Raiders Report, and I want to do an Overreaction Monday show because maybe this is an overreaction, but did the Philadelphia Eagles just lay the blueprint of what it takes to beat Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, and the Kansas City Chiefs? That's all what we're going to be talking about here on today's show, because if you did not watch that big game yesterday, Philadelphia from the jump dominated in the trenches. They dominated on both sides of the football, and I have never seen Patrick Mahomes look more human than what he looked last night up against the Philadelphia Eagles. And you know what? This is a hell of a morning. I still got no voice. I am hungover as you can't even believe. But can I get an FKC down below to get this 2025 offseason started? I know that we had to watch the Super Bowl defending champs back-to-back have an opportunity at a three-peat. But man, oh man, was it fun to see Patrick Mahomes, babyface pouting, Andy Reid look confused, and quite frankly, it might have been the worst game I've ever seen Andy Reid. Travis Kelce looked as washed as my clothes right now in the washing machine. I was a happy person, and can I get an FKC down below? But the reason why I wanted to make this video, because I said it last night, the Raiders, Tom Brady, John Spytek, Pete Carroll, Chip Kelly, Patrick Graham, every single person on that Raiders team, every single person in the NFL needs to go back and you need to watch what the Philadelphia Eagles just did to Kansas City, because I've said this before. If you try to get into a shootout with Mahomes, you might not have a lot of success with that. But we have seen the Chiefs, Mahomes, get whooped in the Super Bowl before. You go back to that Tampa Bay game. John Spytek was a part of that regime. They were able to get after him. You look at the game on Christmas last season, right? Jack Jones, pick six. The Raiders were able to generate pressure on Mahomes. You look at this past Super Bowl, able to generate pressure on Mahomes. If you're an NFL person and you don't watch the tape on that Super Bowl 59 game, you don't deserve to have a job. So here we go. We're going to make this Raiders related because I'm hoping that the Raiders create some rumors, get some circulation going, and you got to learn from this game. The pressure that the Eagles were able to get tells me this. If you're able to generate pressure with four, you're going to have an opportunity to beat the Kansas City Chiefs, and this one is believe it, baby. It is not an overreaction. It's also not rocket science, right? Like, we know when you're able to generate pressure in the NFL, you're able to get after the quarterback. When you're able to get after the quarterback and make Mahomes look human, that's where that light bulb needs to go off in your head and say, wow, maybe we got to copy this a little bit. And I know that the NFL is a copycat league. The Eagles had a 38% pressure rate, totaling 16 pressures. They had 6 sacks and didn't blitz a single time. If I'm the Raiders, and maybe you already have a little bit of a blueprint of what you're going to do this offseason, if I'm the Raiders, and this is coming from me, a team that already has Max Crosby, Christian Wilkins, you got Tyree Wilson, there's a few other players that I would like to bring back. If, let's just say, you were allocating a little bit of money to your defensive line, maybe at DT, maybe at edge, I watch that football game right there and I go, I'm investing a little bit more in my defensive line than I originally thought, because I know this. If I can generate pressure with four, you got a chance to beat Patrick Mahomes. And if you have a chance to beat Patrick Mahomes, it means you got a chance to win the Super Bowl. So here are some of the top defensive tackle free agents out there on the market. These are just my top 10 overall in general. Milton Williams has been a name that I have thrown out multiple times on this show, and definitely a name to keep in mind. Maybe a Calais Campbell. I know he's 38 years old, but still able to play at a high level. Poona Ford was drafted by Pete Carroll in that regime. Back in Seattle, Jaron Reed could be another interesting name. The bottom line is this. If you were only going to spend a little bit on DT, or even if you're going to spend whatever, I'm going to spend a little bit more. And one player that I'm hoping that the Raiders are able to bring back is Adam Butler, who I thought was an outstanding player this past season for the Raiders. You can make the argument maybe one of the most underappreciated players on the entire silver and black defense. The fact that the Raiders were able to bring back Patrick Graham and one of the best offensive line coaches in Rob Leonard. Let's take advantage of that, and let's not only combine a great coach and Graham and a great coach in Rob Leonard, let's also invest even more money on that defensive line. Maybe you want to go DT. I'm thinking re-sign Adam Butler. You maybe target one of those other players. Maybe you're considering drafting Mason Graham now at number 6 overall. Or maybe you look at some of these edges. Josh Sweat is about to get absolutely positively paid. One of the names that I bring up all the time, as an edge free agent target is Azeez Ojulari, who was drafted in the second round by Patrick Graham, had 8 sacks as a rookie, and has kind of fallen off a little bit. If I'm the Raiders, I look at a player like Azeez. I look at a player like Josh Sweat, and I go, yeah, I'm spending a lot of money. But it doesn't matter. I am going to spend more money than I ever thought this offseason trying to get edge rushers. Are you trying to bring back Malcolm Kuntz? His market value is kind of a weird one. I've seen on Spytek that he's projected to get $20-something million. I've also seen that people think he's only going to get 5 to 6 coming off an ACL injury. If I'm the Raiders, I'm trying to bring back Malcolm. I'm trying to bring back Adam Butler. I'm looking at bringing in maybe a big-time DT, a big-time edge in free agency. But I'm also absolutely positively trying to bring back K'Lavon Chasen, who had a career-high 5 sacks and really showed that he was able to grow up as a player, as a man, and really kind of come into his own a little bit for the Silver and Black. So let me know down below, should the Raiders spend more money on the defensive line this offseason? And I think that it's one of those areas that people might look and consider, it might not be the biggest need for the Raiders because we already have Christian Wilkins, you already have Max Crosby. Give me a yes, give me a no. My answer is coming up right here after this YouTube ad break. Abso-freaking-lutely. The point of this video today to the entire nation of the NFL is you got to learn from yesterday. And if I learned anything, if let's just say I was going to spend $7 in free agency, I'm now going to spend $9. You know what I'm saying? Like, you got to think about the way that game was won, and really I think it was as simple as they were able to win in the trenches on the defensive side of the football. When you look at this Raiders defensive end group right now, Max Crosby, Tyree Wilson, that's all we really have. Sure, you got Andre Carter, but that was a practice squad type of developmental player. No matter what, the Raiders are going to have to invest in an edge. No matter what, the Raiders are going to have to invest in defensive tackle because not only are you losing Adam Butler and John Jenkins, you know, really all you have is a young man by the name of John Ulalu and Christian Wilkins. I love Wilkins, and he's going to be an absolute dog. But for the Raiders, I am saying at minimum, you got to try to go out and get 2 to 3 legit starters on that defensive line. And with $92.3 million, I'm not afraid to spend a little bit more money. If you're able to go out and give Patrick Graham a raise, if you're able to go out and make Chip Kelly the highest paid OC, if we're able to do that stuff from a coaching standpoint, why are we not able to go out and overspend on some players where if you win with 4, you're going to be able to get after Mahomes and beat the Kansas City Chiefs? That's a little bit of a blueprint right there. Coming up, we're going to be talking about the offense because defense is going to be a big thing for Pete Carroll. And I think for everybody out there that always says defense wins championships, you got to love what you saw in Super Bowl 59. But for the Raiders, we also got to figure out how to get that offense going because that was also a big part of why Philadelphia was able to get a win. I'll tell you some interesting things about the quarterback, maybe wide receiver positions here in a moment. But first, our sponsor is PrizePicks. Easy, exciting, daily fantasy sports made easy. There is a reason why PrizePicks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app out there. And yesterday, we got to watch the big game. Mahomes ended up throwing for more than 1 passing yard. I got the more on that. I'm not going to lie. My big game lineup did not hit because I was hoping that Saquon Barkley was going to be able to score a touchdown. But you know what? Last night was maybe the most fun I have ever had watching a game that wasn't a Raiders game. And I bet you a lot of people were feeling that exact same way. So go to prizepicks.com/CLNS. Download the app today. Use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Download the app today. Use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Now that football is in the books, I'm going to be looking at basketball like Luka Doncic making his debut tonight for the Lakers. I'm telling you what, if you're like sitting at home and you're going, I'm going to watch that game, I'm going to put a PrizePicks lineup in for that freaking Lakers game. Absolutely. I'm going to take a few 2 hours out of my day, and whether I win, whether I lose, it's going to be so much more fun and entertaining to watch. I don't even know what the points more or less is right now on Luka. I'm taking the more on that piece. You know what I'm saying? And I'm going to have a lot of fun while I do it. Huge shout out to PrizePicks for sponsoring the Raiders Report. Again, that link's going to be down in the comments and in the description of today's show. Let's go to the next thing here that the Raiders need to learn, and rumors that are going to be starting, because rumors are going to start from the Super Bowl simply because of how much Kansas City was dominated. So do the Raiders need an elite O-line to beat Kansas City? This is, again, believe it, baby. And it's not rocket science. I wanted to bring these 2 points up because I've always been somebody that has predicated the importance of trying to win in the trenches, the importance of trying to win on both sides of the football. John Spytek, Tom Brady, they're going to have that exact same mindset. Pete Carroll's got that exact same mindset. But the Eagles on offense, they won in the trenches, and even though they only rushed for 3.2 yards per carry, and Kansas City did a phenomenal job taking away Saquon Barkley. I mean, he had like 25 carries for 57 yards. But why I say it's very important that they won in the trenches is because the amount of time, the clean pocket that Philly's offensive line was giving Jalen Hurts time to throw and then time to throw the ball down the field, that was impressive. Like the way that Kansas City played defense kind of reminded me of the way that teams used to play defense against the Raiders when they had Jimmy Garoppolo, Brian Hoyer, Aiden O'Connell, Josh Jacobs in the back. They were stacking the box with 8. Forcing Philly to throw down the field. Guess what? You need receivers. You need a quarterback that's able to throw the ball down the field. Now, I look at this Raiders offensive line group. Colt Miller, I have confidence in. JPJ, he's coming back. Dylan Parham. I'd like to see what we could do potentially with DJ Glaze over there at right tackle. Andre James is under contract. But if it was up to me, I'm moving JPJ to the center position. And I'm trying to get some big guys up the middle on the offensive line because when you can push around players, and again, they made Chris Jones look human. When you're able to do that, good things are going to happen. Trey Smith got worked yesterday by Jalen Carter and Milton Williams. So I'll be curious to see what type of contract he gets. I said earlier this offseason, Mekhi Becton, who is now a Super Bowl champion for Philadelphia, that's somebody that I personally would really like. Patrick McCarry could be a cheaper option. Aaron Banks down there could be a cheaper option. But I also said if there's one spot that I'm willing to overspend on this offseason, I am willing to overspend on the offensive line because when you give your quarterback time to throw, and then even when the defense is playing a perfect game, and they kind of played Philadelphia in a perfect way, taking away their running game, it did not matter. And you know why it didn't matter? Because Jalen Hurts was just that good. And when you have a quarterback that can create, it creates good things down the road, which is going to be the next thing we talk about here in a moment. But I got to give a shout out to Yoda Jenkins. He was our Super Bowl 59 MVP. Dude was an absolute legend last night. Seriously, to everybody that was a part of our show, we had over probably 200,000 people join. It was a crazy, crazy show. It honestly was one of those games where it didn't feel real. It kind of reminded me of the Raiders' 63-21 win over the Chargers, where you're like, I can't believe this is actually happening. Like, am I dreaming right now? It felt like that type of game. And when somebody's not afraid to get the party started, I think good shit happens in this world. So, Yoda, shout out to you, man. Let's go to the final thing here. The other thing that I learned from last night, and again, it's not rocket science, and I can't even say it's something that I learned, but it's a cold, hard fact. The Raiders need a new quarterback in order to compete in the National Football League. Aiden O'Connell ain't going to get it done, right? And that's just the truth. And I say that because when you take away the ability to run the football, which is what teams are going to try to do if you build a team the way that Philadelphia is built, right? But for the Raiders, you need a quarterback that can throw the ball down the field when the box is stacked. Aiden can throw the ball down the field, but Aiden also panics when he's pressured. Jalen Hurts, the thing that I love about him is that cool, calm demeanor where you need somebody where no matter when the lights are on, you need somebody that's cool, calm, and collected. Somebody that's got that cool, calm swagger like a Jaden Daniels. To me, the quarterback I look in the draft that reminds me of him is Cam Ward. I don't know if you're going to be able to go get him, but I've often said this. The only quarterback that I'm willing to trade up for in round one is Cam Ward. And I know Ward can't run the way Jalen Hurts can, but finding a quarterback that can at least create with his legs opens up the passing game downfield. I mean, you watched that game yesterday. It was Kansas City stacked the box with 8. They took away the running game, and Jalen Hurts was able to convert, throwing the ball down the field. He needed his receivers to make plays down the field. The Raiders, you need to find some guys that can make plays down the field. But then also when the play wasn't there, Hurts was athletic enough to be able to use his legs, create, and then be able to go down the field. I mean, you know, we talk about defense, and the way that the Buccaneers defense was able to beat the Chiefs in the Super Bowl, the way the Eagles defense, Vic Fangio deserves MVP, was able to beat them. But also Jalen Hurts in the Super Bowl has been unbelievable. Like if you're an NFL team, you go, I need a quarterback that can do things similar to what Hurts can. Throw the ball down the field, create with his legs, cool, calm demeanor where no point is too big. Hurts last night was unbelievable. Yeah, he had that one bad interception. And that was really the only downfall of his entire game. 17 of 22, extremely accurate, 221, 2 touchdowns, 11 carries, 72 yards, and a touchdown. Like, was able to pick up big clutch first downs. And when Kansas City did everything right, because the offensive line protected Hurts, gave him a clean pocket, he was able to create, he was able to make some stuff happen and move the ball down the field. I mean, look at what Hurts even did in Super Bowl 57 against Kansas City. 27 to 38, 304 yards and a touchdown. Steve Spagnuolo is the defensive mind where he has seen everything in the NFL. Patrick Mahomes has seen everything in the NFL. Tom Brady has seen everything that you can possibly throw at him. When you have an athlete at the quarterback position where you do everything right, Andy Reid he has seen everything. Steve Spagnuolo has seen everything. When you add things that it doesn't matter how perfect you are as a coaching staff, and a way to kind of get by is by having that difference maker at QB. When you have the athletic freak at quarterback, and when you win in the trenches on both sides of the football, doesn't matter who you got. Sometimes football can just be as simple as just having good players and winning in the trenches, and that's what Philadelphia did, and every single NFL team needs to learn from that. So here's going to be another question I'm going to throw out to all y'all. After watching Super Bowl 59, which quarterback do you want the Raiders to get this offseason? I have heard names like Matthew Stafford, Aaron Rodgers, Geno Smith, Russell Wilson, Justin Fields, Sam Darnold, Kirk Cousins, Mariota, the list goes on and on and on. To me, there is one name in particular that I learned a lot about, and I'm going to study more on from watching yesterday's game, and that person is this. It's Justin Fields. And I am wondering if I, as a Raiders fan now, might not want to pursue Justin Fields because can he run? Can he create? Can he do all those things Jalen Hurts can do? Yes. Is he cool, calm, and collected? Yes. The problem with Fields, though, is he can't throw the football down the field. He's one of the worst quarterbacks in the NFL at being able to throw the ball down the field and making plays down the field for your receivers. Hurts has that rainbow ball, and he's able to put some air on it. Russell Wilson has that rainbow ball. Fields doesn't have the ability to layer passes. Every single one of his passes always seems to just be like a flat 95-mile-an-hour fastball where once in a while, you need a changeup, you need a curveball, you need to be able to mix it up a little bit. I'm going to watch more tape on Fields because I think a lot of people from watching that game go, the Raiders need a guy like Justin Fields that can create to run that type of Philadelphia offense. The difference is, though, I don't know if Fields can throw the ball down the field. So not only do you need to be able to find everything that I was just talking about from a quarterback standpoint, you also need to find players that can win one-on-one down the field. When you have the opportunity to win one-on-one and create those explosive plays, it's a big-time game changer. And the Raiders simply don't really have a player that is consistent. Jacoby's not really that type of dude, more of a possession receiver. Trey Tucker is speed, but still a very, very unproven asset. At the tight end position, you realistically only have Brock Bowers and Michael Mayer. Shorter, Harrison Bryant, they're not really going to be back next season. Bryant's a free agent. Justin Shorter is more of a practice squad player. But if I'm Las Vegas, I know Brock Bowers can make plays down the field. And I want to be able to use Michael Mayer as more of a chip blocker to just give your quarterback a little bit more time to make plays. If I was the Raiders and I would look at A.J. Brown stretching the field, Devonta Smith stretching the field, hell, it's even on Kansas City's side, Xavier Worthy being able to go down the field, make that hell of a play that he did. But if I'm Las Vegas, I'm sitting here going, all right, do I want to potentially make a big-time splash at going out and getting a player that can help me win one-on-one opportunities down the field? Am I looking at somebody like a T. Higgins, who's the top wide receiver on the market? But I'll tell you this, you look at T. Higgins, he's probably going to make about 27 to 30 million a year, but his downfield ability is truly, truly that. The name that I'm going to bring up, though, is DK Metcalf, and there's been a lot of rumors around the Seahawks moving on from DK. It's not a secret. Pete Carroll and Metcalf have a phenomenal relationship, and when I watched yesterday's game, and I watched the physicality, and I watched how Philadelphia beat Kansas City down the field in one-on-one situations when the box was stacked, the Raiders are going to run a very similar offense to, I think, what Philadelphia tried to do yesterday. And it's just based on a lot of the things that I'm hearing with Chip Kelly, and it's based on a lot of the things that I'm thinking about. I'm wondering if the Raiders, if they do spend big, maybe on offensive line, maybe on defensive line, that you might concentrate on finding a receiver in the draft a little bit earlier, or you look at trying to get one of these big-name receivers like a DKT Higgins, and then you invest maybe heavily on defense in the draft. So in conclusion, If I'm the Raiders, John Spytek and Pete Carroll, the amount of money I'm spending on defensive line and offensive line this offseason just went up, and it was already going to be high, but I'm going to spend even more now. The Raiders clearly need a quarterback that can win downfield and can win with his legs. And then at pick number 6, if you spend a lot of money on some other areas, yes, going best player available is important, but now I'm looking at Mason Graham. I'm looking at Abdul Carter. I'm looking at a Will Johnson to be able to win in the secondary, because even though Philadelphia was able to generate pressure and win with 4, and they dominated in the secondary with Cooper DeJean, Quinyon Mitchell, Darius Slay, the Kansas City Chiefs could not get it open, and it was an entire defensive performance. I hope the Raiders and I hope every single NFL team looks at what Philadelphia did, because I know this is Overreaction Monday, but I think they just laid a blueprint on how to beat Patrick Mahomes.